Come on, y'all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to this evening of billion-dollar producer and evening with an Indian in Hollywood. This has been organized in association with IFI and LALL Entertainment. It is my proud privilege to welcome Mr. Ashok Amritraj, eminent Hollywood film producer, former professional tennis player, and chairman Hyde Park Entertainment, and Mr. Bhuvan Lall, who will be in conversation with him. He himself an eminent filmmaker and writer, chairman of LALL Entertainment through ICG. We shall introduce Ashok Amritraj to you through a movie clip, but please allow me to introduce Mr. Bhuvan Lall. He's an award-winning filmmaker and writer who is also the chairman of LALL Entertainment, as I told you. LALL Entertainment, launched at Cannes 2003, is a strategic investor in world-class intellectual properties and art house film content in Hollywood, Canada, and India. He is the founder of Indian Independent Filmmakers Worldwide Association. Mr. Lall is also an international journalist and novelist. We welcome them once again. Kindly welcome them with a round of applause, please.
Good evening, friends. The billion-dollar producer sitting on my right. We are going to learn a lot tonight because this man is a very rare individual. The Amritraj brand name is a very big brand name in India in the field of tennis. We all grew up watching the Amritraj brothers excel in this game, become national champions, and then play international tennis across the world. Wimbledon was their forte. But there is something about Ashok that makes him unique. That was his love for the movie business. Growing up in Chennai, Ashok fell in love with watching movies and wanted to make them one day. Tonight, we are going to do a journey with him, which will take us through his early years in Hollywood and then bring us to modern-day Hollywood and his role as India's ambassador in the entertainment industry. I have known Ashok for almost 20 years. I have had the rare privilege of being with him in very exclusive situations. He is a very, very interesting man when he has had a glass of wine. We'll like to go there later today, but before that, we'll just go into a Q&A with him tonight, and we'll let you also ask some questions later on. But the first question is mine. Ashok, the game of tennis and the game of Hollywood, they're two different ball games. How did you manage to excel in both of them?
Well, tennis, are we on?
Yeah.
Tennis was sort of the family business. My brothers had played, so I followed, and it was one of those things where each of us in our own way was quite successful at the sport. And I always tell my kids, you know, being an athlete prepares you for competition in life. It's a wonderful training ground. Teaches you discipline, teaches you focus, and teaches you that if you work hard, you know, something will come out of it. And I think my parents instilled that in me, in us, and over the last 32 years in the film industry, it's really sort of helped me persevere, especially in those first 7 or 8 years of sort of dark days. So it's, you know, I think there's a parallel between both the ball games. You know, I think I certainly reached deep down in those early days to persevere through the movie industry, and I think the tennis training came in handy.
So Ashok, it was very easy for a tennis player to play tennis in Wimbledon and then go to Hollywood and meet a person and give him a script and make a movie. It was just like very easy, right? What was it
Yeah,
like?
this was 1980 when I got into the movie industry, and Hollywood was very much of a closed world, and it was very white, I would say. I was surrounded by white faces, and I think Asia and India is nowhere near what it was today. Today, it's they're kind of roaring tigers, to take Mike Pandey's line here, and it was a very, very tough time. It's hard to explain because there were no role models to look at. There was no way to say this was the way to make it. For tennis playing certainly helped. I got my foot in the door, but then nobody took you seriously because they said, it's an athlete. First of all, you're an athlete, and then you're from India, and you're trying to make it in Hollywood. There's got to be something wrong with you. But it was extremely difficult. I think you tend to find out that to break into that world takes a tremendous amount of discipline and perseverance. I think perseverance is something that Hollywood likes to grind you into the dust and kind of you see if you can last the test.
Make you pay the dues?
Make you pay your dues. Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting. So Ashok, you have made 100 movies in Hollywood. Today you are on the pinnacle of your career. When Bringing Down the House came out, were you expecting it to be the huge 250 million big box office hit, or?
Not at all. You make movies and you stay at the table, like they say in Las Vegas, and you wait for those big breaks. I'd had a lot of sort of singles and doubles and triples, but had not had the home run. So Double Impact was a big hit. We made it for $11 million. It made over $100 million at the box office. Original Sin we made for very little money. Angelina Jolie was just coming up as an actress at that time. She had done Tomb Raider, but it hadn't opened yet. Antonio Banderas was the bigger star. But Bring Down the House, Queen Latifah actually was an executive producer on it. I produced it. We came up with the idea. MGM ended up not wanting to make it, and then we took it to the Walt Disney Company and we made it with Disney. And Steve Martin came on board. It was one of those things where all the stars lined up perfectly, and we were opening that weekend against a movie called Tears of the Sun, which Bruce Willis was starring in, and we knew it was going to be neck and neck. And what you do when these movies open on a Friday evening, because much of our business has become sort of by Saturday morning, you know exactly what the movie's going to do for its entire run, and you know what it's going to do on DVD, and everything is out, with all the social media stuff that's out there today. So I'm sitting there on Friday night biting my fingernails, and I get a call from Dick Cook, who was at that time head of marketing at the Walt Disney Company, and he says, you won't believe this, but we are tracking unbelievable. I mean, we are way in first place, and we've overreached all of our estimates. So he said, but I don't know, Bruce could come back tomorrow, because they had made a movie called Sixth Sense with Willis. And I'd done a movie called Bandits with Bruce. So we were up against each other, and on Saturday the box office went up again, and then on Sunday it went up again. So it was unbelievable. So at the end for the first weekend we did $32 million, and Bruce's movie had done like 20. So it was an unbelievable success. Nobody saw it coming. So it was a lot of celebration.
Great. Can you tell our audience today what goes into making a movie from the script to the final stages, something like Premonition?
I think, for me, we have a bunch of executives, creative executives, who look for material out there. So we get probably 100 ideas, screenplays, comic books, plays from Broadway, novels, articles from newspapers. Probably 100, 120 a month that the guys look at, over 1,000 a year. We probably end up making 4 movies a year. So the mortality rate, needless to say, is very high. But it all starts with an idea. I think Hollywood is you have an extraordinary amount of talent. You have everything, ideas that are pitched from a Forrest Gump, to The Fighter, to Black Swan, to King's Speech. So there's a great variety of ideas. But my job as a producer, the way I produce films, is I take it from the idea all the way to the screen. Today, of course, marketing has become crucial to what it is. But in the case of Premonition, it came to me as a screenplay. We had to rewrite it because there were parts of it that were a little too complex. It was a story of a woman who wakes up on a Saturday morning, goes back in time to Monday, and then Friday and Tuesday. So it's sort of living her life out of order. And luckily, Sandy Bullock responded to the material, and she ended up starring in the movie. The movie turned out to be a big hit. And Julian McMahon, who was the lead guy, was also terrific in it. It's all about the idea and the screenplay. I think once you have a great screenplay, I think actors respond to it, directors respond to it, and then, of course, from there, the movie follows.
Ashok, you also made Nicolas Cage's film Ghost Rider 2. And could you tell us something about what security mechanisms does Hollywood use to copyright projects like this? Because the ideas are so crucial to the success of the film.
It's become a major issue and a big part of our life, because today if you download something, and by mistake somebody is able to get a hold of it, your entire marketplace is gone, because digitally you can distribute it around the world in a split second, of course. When we made Ghost Rider, and it was Marvel is very, very hands-on, as is, of course, Sony Pictures. So we were all partnered in this, and I needed to show 6 minutes of the movie in Cannes for my distributors. I had 170 distributors from around the world who were wanting to see the 6 minutes in 3D. So I said to the Sony guys, we're in post-production, I need to cut 6 minutes, we need to finish the visual effects on the 6 minutes, we need to finish the 3D on the 6 minutes, and I got to screen it in Cannes. So they said, okay, but we need the proper security measures, and I said, all right, we've done this before, so we know what we're doing. So we generally have 3 guys taking away cell phones from everybody, taking away, any kind of photographic equipment. So they said, no, we need 6 people doing this. So we said, okay, we'll get 6. So then they said, we want to give you a digital key that and the disc that has to be carried by 2 separate people from LA to Cannes. So we said, okay, we'll get 2 separate guys to carry the key and the disc. So we did that. Then they finally said, we need the number on the projector in Cannes, so that after you've done all this, you got to call us at Sony Pictures, and we have a second key that turns on. It was kind of like a nuclear bomb kind of thing. So we have a second key that we turn on, and only then your film will play. I said, guys, come on, 170 distributors are going to be standing there waiting for us to play this 6 minutes. It's unbelievable. So I said, no, we've got to do this. So we go over there, the 2 guys go over, they take the digital key and everything. We have 6 people at the foot of the stairs, 1 entrance to the theater. We take away the distributor's cell phones, put them all in cellophane bags. All the guys are taken up. They're really pissed off. So they are sitting in the screening room. We now turn the key on and my guy from the projection room calls up Sony Pictures. It's 2 o'clock in the morning there. Calls up Sony Pictures and says, turn your key on. So the guy turns his key on, and 6 minutes comes on and plays. And I'm telling the distributors, here is the 6 minutes of Ghost Rider, and it comes on. It was the most amazing thing that I've seen technology work in many ways, but this was kind of perfection, and we were able to protect the 6 minutes. Of course, it wasn't stolen, and so today security is an incredible part of what we do.
Yeah. Ashok, for the benefit of our audiences here, a lot of Indians have tried to go to Hollywood and become actors. A number of established stars have expressed interest in acting in Hollywood films. Have you come across these people coming out there, meeting you, and what kind of advice would you give to people who want to really make it as an actor in Hollywood today?
Well, I have a lot of good friends in Mumbai and in the Bollywood industry. Many of them have come out. I would say all of them have either been to my house or to the office, and we've spent time together. In the early days, there were very few roles for Indian or Asian actors. Today, there are more roles for Asian actors and Indian actors and so on. So there are more opportunities both in television and in feature films. It still hasn't been where there has been sort of a significant role or a significant breakthrough in a major film from an Indian star, but you know, some of that is hopefully coming. You know, the second generation of Indians in America are actually doing very well. They a lot of the television series there now have TV regulars as Indian actors. At least half a dozen I can think of. A lot of youngsters are doing very well. To go from here to there and make it is much more difficult. I think the kids who've grown up there, Night Shyamalan and Jay Chandrasekhar and some of the other guys who are friends of mine, have done a good job. So Kal Penn, Dev Patel, you know, when you're living in Mumbai, trying to make it in Hollywood is sort of a long distance relationship. I mean, the motion picture industry is a very possessive wife. So you have to be with her all the time. So I would say it's not that easy to have a long distance relationship. But I think it's certainly worth, you know, people have to continue to try.
I'll come to a very possessive wife in a minute, but I need to ask you a couple of other questions. So, we also have seen over the last maybe a decade or so a complete desperation on part of some filmmakers in India to get an Oscar for the Foreign Language Award. And every time an entry is sent from here, it's nearly a done deal for us that this film is going to win. In fact, there have been only 3 Indian films which have ever made it to the foreign language shortlist, starting with Mother India, Meera Nair's, Phil Salam Bombay, and then, of course, Ashutosh Gowarikkar's Lagan. And I know you sorted out Amir and Ashutosh's film over there, you helped them out. What does it take to get a foreign language Oscar for an Indian filmmaker? You're a member of the Academy also, so you are one of the rare few members from Indian origin who can sort of guide us.
Yeah, I've been a member of the Academy for 20 years, and I served on the board for foreign film for 9 years. You know, it's what I said before. You've got to have great original stories. I think it's not all about the color and the production design and the photography, all of which is wonderful. But I think the stories. I think you do need to develop better writers overall. There's a movie right now, a foreign language film, which is out there called The Intouchables. Which is a French film, and it is so wonderful, the relationship between the two leads in this movie. You know, that's the kind of films that end up winning an Oscar. You know, Life is Beautiful, or you know, those kind of movies that have wonderful, touching stories, and that don't sort of feel like they've been made before. You know, they don't feel like they're not big on extravaganzas. You know, they're not big on extravagant. They're you know, I think we at the Academy like intimate films a bit more. So I think that's where you end up trying to focus. But I think originality and intimacy and emotions are probably key.
Ashok, you're also making an effort to link Hollywood to the rest of the world. In fact, you're among the probably few handful of filmmakers and producers out of Hollywood who look at Asia. So you have relationships in the Middle East, you have relationships within India, as well as Singapore. What made you do that, and how did that come about?
I've always, I think in my career over the last 30 years, I've always sort of been very passionate about building those bridges between the West and the East, whether it's in the mid-'80s when I made little films, and I made a little film with Rajnikant, and Rajni has been a friend ever since, and an English language film. And then in the 90s, of course, I did Jeans with Aishwarya and Rahman and Shankar and so on. But the English films that I've made, the Hollywood films that I've made, have always sort of come out of a germ of ideas that I've had growing up in India. You know, I mean, so if you look at Double Impact, and so many of my Bollywood friends will always say, you know, yeah, but this is an Indian idea. You know, so you look at Double Impact and the twins, and yeah, there is a feel of that. And you look at Premonition, and it has a sort of karmic feel to it. And if you look at Raising Helen, where a sister dies and the other sister takes care of the 3 kids, it kind of has a little bit of that feel to it. But it's written differently, it's packaged differently, it's made differently, right? But I've always held out the mix of all of these cultures is fascinating. So I have partners in the Middle East, Image Nation, who are very much a part of everything that I do. I'm partnered with the government of Singapore, the MDA, and the Media Development Authority there, and so it's great to be able to mix the cultures and traditions and ideas. I made a movie called Street Fighter, which was a Japanese video game, a lot of Chinese actors, Polish director, Andrzej Bartkowiak, a large American crew, and American cast as well. So it's great fun to mix it up, and I've enjoyed sort of building those bridges and connections and keeping it global.
Coming back to the possessive wife now.
I knew I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. You played singles for a very long time. In fact, you were not married for a very long time.
I thought you were talking about tennis, but okay.
So, I find it very unusual that a man of such eminence and such stature, keeping his family roots alive, keeping his family life totally intact, and how does that happen to a person who lives in Hollywood? Because we've heard horror stories about what people do in Hollywood.
I think from the first 18 to 20 years of my life living in India, you know, I mean, when you grow up in India and you go to school and college here, and the family comes first. You know, we've always been a very close family. My parents, my brothers, myself, and my brothers and I traveled together for many years. And I think that platform and those early years and that development sort of gave me the steady hand over the years, you know. And then, of course, I was married to a girl from Chennai who keeps me definitely grounded. And I have 2 kids who keep me even more grounded. So all of the private jets and the yachts, I think, kind of, you know, go by the wayside once they get involved and stuff, and they say, yeah, but Dad, you know, this and that, and then it becomes just about home and family. So
yeah. There's another side to you which our friends in India are not acquainted with. You and your family, especially in Los Angeles, are involved in a lot of philanthropic activities. Could you highlight that today and let us know some of what you do?
I don't talk a lot about it. It's but the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles is one that I support quite a bit. The Motion Picture and Television Foundation, which Jeffrey Katzenberg, who is chairman of DreamWorks, runs, is a great organization which is for the older actors, directors, and so on. And this is a home for them. And we built a villa there. My daughter works there, you know, through she's in her first year of college, but through summers and things. You know, charity is a very important part of life. In India, the Velangani Church is one that I'm very, very close to. So I've helped build part of the church in Velangani, and we also the Velangani Church in Madras in Besant Nagar. Secondary education, helped build a school in Chennai. I think education, religion, all of these areas are critical. We're in fact going to be working on something with the United Nations that we'll be talking about tomorrow in our press conference.
Very good, very good. One last question, Ashok. I never ever get to meet the stars in Hollywood, and you play tennis with them. What is it like?
You know, it was very funny today when we were introducing the double at the Inox Theater. As I was walking out, one of the audience guys looked over at me and said, "Say hi to Julia Roberts." So I said, yes, of course I will. And if you tell me your name, I'll say that you said hi, definitely. You know what? It's great fun as long as you don't let it get to you. It is, you know, we have wonderful tennis games at home on Saturday morning. It gives me great pleasure that 30 years ago I used to run around and play in their homes, and now they come over to play over at my house on Saturday morning. So there's a pretty traditional tennis doubles game, whether it's Dustin Hoffman or Pierce Brosnan or whoever it may be, studio executives and so on, and then they are forced to eat Indian food after that. So they no longer need to be forced; they love it. So it's great fun, and yeah, come over and play the next time.
I wish my tennis was that good. 100 years of Indian cinema, and we have a filmmaker, producer from India who has made 100 movies in his lifetime. It's the same time. And what do you think you will do next? What is the challenge that you want to take on?
You know, I think I enjoy making movies. It's a passion of mine. You know, I grew up watching these movies and watching movie stars like Chuck Heston and Sidney Poitier and Dustin Hoffman and Steve Martin. It's been great to work with many of them. I'd like to do a movie with Meryl Streep. I like Meryl's work. I think she's terrific. I want to continue making movies. I think that's my passion. I enjoy doing it. But I think a large part of my life also will revolve around philanthropy, and a way in which that I think films can help philanthropy in the world. I think today, because it's the greatest medium to get out there. I remember talking to Warren Buffett, and he said, you know, I'm great at making money, and then I give Bill Gates all my money because he's great at spending it. So, you know, and giving it away to charity. So it's you know, my passion is making films, and I enjoy the charity work that I do as well. So it's great to be able to mix the two together, and that's hopefully the next place.
Great. We'd like some questions from the audience at this stage.
My name is Lakshman Pardhanani. I'm a retiree from London. Mr. Amritraj, something about your career intrigues me. Some of us who, like you, tried to make a career abroad, did so and were able to do so because we had very little choice. We didn't have the support of a very successful tennis career in front of us or behind us. Now, normally what happens with successful sports people, whether they are tennis stars or cricket stars or whatever, they retire. When they retire 35, 40, whatever it is, they become tennis coaches or, you know, cricket administrators or whatever. What is it that made you go to Charlton Heston and seek advice or seek support or whatever? And what is it during those 7 years that you say you struggled that kept that flame burning within you, going into an industry? I mean, I know the feeling because I tried to do the same thing in England, where it was all white faces in a different field. What is it that made that fire burn within you to try and seek success in an industry that you had nothing to do with?
I suppose being passionate about something drives you to a place where you persevere in these things. I think one of the toughest decisions for me was to make the move from tennis to the motion picture industry. My parents thought I was crazy. You know, none of us had been in the movie industry. You know, it was, I was very naive. I had no idea. It was like Bhuvan just said, you know, I thought I'd go get a screenplay, find an actor and shoot a movie and distribute it, and I'd be a movie star producer. Didn't quite work that way. Took about 10 years, but at the end of the 10 years, I became an overnight success. It is, I think if there's any little bit of advice I'd give to anybody who was getting into specifically in the motion picture industry, because, you know, and I suppose other businesses, but the movies tend to take over your life. It's 24/7. It pretty much takes over your life, and unless you have a great love for it, an incredible passion for it, and you're willing to stay the distance where there's so much of rejection, where all the time doors are slammed in your face, and if you can put up with all that, then I'll tell you, when I was growing up, my mother, who was very instrumental in most of the things that used to tell us, she used to quote from, I believe it was Longfellow. She'd say, "Heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, for they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night." And it is that, basically, it's all of that, all the time. And of course, when you're in a new place with sort of a new agenda, it's even more difficult. But sticking with it, and the discipline and focus that tennis taught me, and the sort of support of my parents was sort of crucial to making it. There were many days when I used to look at myself in the mirror and wonder what the hell I was doing, But it's fairy tales that's what it's made about.
Ashok, career of an Indian which may run parallel to you is that of Ismail Merchant, who has also produced a number of films. Now, anytime after all these happy journeys to the bank, after your films were released, at this moment, do you feel that you have to do a film like Ismail Merchant, James Ivory, which may fetch you Academy Awards? Spielberg also did that after making all Jaws and Jurassic Parks. He came out with the Schindler's List. In one of the interviews,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You don't try to make movies to win Oscars. You try to make movies because you enjoy making them, because you're passionate about an idea. I've made movies like Moonlight Mile with Dustin Hoffman and Susan Sarandon, and a movie like Shop Girl with Steve Martin and Claire Danes. And each of these movies in their own way have won a variety of awards, won a variety of film festivals. I've opened pretty much every film festival in the world there is through my films. Yeah, I'd love to win an Oscar. If you know of a screenplay that can guarantee me an Oscar, I'd love it. You make movies because I think it's something that one should love and one should do, and awards come along the way.
A whole generation of youth have grown up and got mesmerized with names like Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, Chuck Norris, and all. Arnold Schwarzenegger. The list will go very long. Looking at these action heroes turning old, turning 60 plus, still films sell on their names. So what the second generation of action heroes do you feel fit the actual bill of these action heroes and carry forward the legacy? Who new actors do you feel?
Well, let me first take you back in time a little bit, because action heroes have changed. When I made Double Impact, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone and Jean-Claude and Steven Seagal and so on. That category of action guys then changed a bit, and it became Keanu Reeves in The Matrix and Matt Damon in Bourne Identity. So you got more into visual effects and less into sort of muscle. Now, while that was happening, another interesting phenomenon happened, which is when I joined the motion picture industry in 1980. The U.S. revenue for a movie was about 75% of the global market. Today, the international market is about 65 to 70% of the global market, right? International also loves these guys. They love Sly Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis, and they forgive a little more easily for older movie stars. U.S. is less forgiving of older movie stars. So the Expendables, but Sly and Schwarzenegger and these guys, we'll forget about the 4 years where Schwarzenegger was governor of California, but these guys had a very dry spell. I remember when I made Bandits with Bruce Willis, and Bruce didn't want to go to Europe to promote the film, and I took him with me, and I said, the international market will always remember you longer than the domestic market will, and it always kind of turns out that way. Today's action stars are no longer action stars. The action stars are really the visual effects. it's Spider-Man and it's Batman and it's Avengers and it's all of these movies that really don't have the muscle power that we used to have in the old days, which I quite enjoyed. You watch the extravaganzas that cost $250 million, and of course, it's worth seeing. They're great fun to watch, and there are an extraordinary amount of visual effects in these things. But the action movie has changed. So it is hard to make just a pure stunt, old-fashioned action movie. Now, Expendables had a great gimmick to it, so it did work in a different way. But the action hero has, it's become a hero on a computer.
It's just related to what he said, that you went into a foreign land and tried to make your future there. You never thought of going to Bollywood? And I mean, it's closer home, or and starting there and then going on to Hollywood. Why straight to Hollywood? Wasn't that sort of and that also in 1980, when it was.
Yeah.
And what about the second part is now you're not thinking of coming back here and doing a joint venture with any Bollywood producer or something and doing a good movie, which could probably win an Oscar.
Wow, those are tricky questions. Let's see. I grew up in Chennai watching sort of Sound of Music 34 times and a bunch of other movies like Ben-Hur and To Serve with Love and so on. I must say they fascinated me a little bit more than the Bollywood films, though I love, watching some of the Bollywood films. I'm almost forced to watch them because my wife watches them all the time at home. So when I walk into the room, there are, all these songs going on. So I do watch some of them. But when I came to LA for the first time, a guy called Jerry Buss brought me out to LA. He owns the LA Lakers, and he also owned the tennis team. He brought me out. I got to the finals of the Wimbledon Juniors. He brought me out to play for the LA tennis team. And I knew that the minute I set foot in LA, I knew that I was lost. I dropped my bags, grabbed a cab, and went around to the studios, to Warner Brothers and the Walt Disney Studios and 20th Century Fox. And I knew this was the business I wanted to be in, and this was the place I wanted to do it in. I had hoped that I would be able to make one film, which was kind of what my ambition was. I got a little lucky. I would love to come back and do something here. I see no reason to do joint ventures with Bollywood companies. I would come here if I could find a great screenplay. I would love to make a film here, just as we made Jeans in the 90s. It was an interesting idea, and Shankar was an interesting director, and Rahman makes terrific music. Aishwarya was coming right out of being Miss World. It's really a question of finding a great idea. And then, all the awards and stuff come out of that, That's great. Thank you so much.
I hope you like it.
Thank you, Ashok, for finding the time.
Thank you, David.
And we will welcome you to Goa soon again.
Thank you. This is spectacular, by the way. So fabulous.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. Thanks.